With this, we'll just transition straight into this. Pick your question before I go and say, or your comment. Can you kindly introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Neema and I'm from Canada.
You're from Canada. Ottawa or Vancouver? Where in Canada?
Oh, from Toronto.
From Toronto, okay.
So earlier within the presentation and conference, we were discussing why Africa has not been on the rise as of late. And for myself, I believe there's two issues with this. One is investors in Africa are all foreign rather than investing within African countries. For instance, Catherine has worked for a Chinese company within Africa, and China is buying up Africa right now, within all of Africa. Even in the presentation with Ethiopia, it was mentioned. But another problem goes back more towards the 1950s when the United Nations was established, when laws were created and pen was put to paper that would internationally connect the world and create a level of human rights and a level of world-like negotiations. But that was created by the winners and the imperialistic winners when this was created, imperialistic winners of the war. And there was no African country that was there that was establishing the 1951 Convention or the 1967 Refugee Protocol. And it's a bit hard to implement these rules and these guidelines within Africa. For instance, 2.5 million people displaced in Chad, Somalis, Sudan. So many people are displaced. And that's because the laws that are internationally established does not reflect African culture and African needs. So that is also one of the other issues, is that we have a very current day, Eurocentric still, very imperialistic mentality on how we're supposed to govern the world. And it's not going to change until the laws change.
Could you help me out in this before you sit down?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely it was the winners who crafted those laws. Germany was a loser when the United Nations was established. Germany now has become the economic machinery and also the political momentum for Europe. So what did Germany do when they didn't sit around the table and were able to come from behind? China also in the 19th century in the Opium War was devastated. But China too has risen from the dust like the phoenix. So what has happened with these two countries that weren't sitting at the table, that have been able to seize the opportunities of reality and bolster themselves up? Possibly if we learn from them, don't you think that Africa can do the same?
You see, in my opinion at least, the problem with Africa, like African countries, unlike China and Germany, was the place that Africa was in when these laws were created. China was not an colonized location. Germany was not colonized. African countries were colonized. African people are still facing the traumas that happened. My family was enslaved from Kenya. And it's passed down. The victim mentality is still passed down. That is a fact. But they were not given the recognition when these laws were created. They're still not given the recognition. They've abided by the laws. No one has come up and said, like, hey, this does not reflect my culture. This does not reflect my mentality. This cannot be implemented in my government. Why? Because we deal with different issues. For instance, China didn't sign the 1951 Convention. Why? Because China has billions of people. And their laws and their views of human rights is completely different because they're doing what is needed to protect and deal with their country, deal with their population. The AU and African countries are not doing that right now. They are trying to implement European models and European mentalities within African countries still, till this day. They are not looking at what's good about Africa, how they can make their own systems to benefit within their own country. They're adopting models that have shown throughout time that it is not working for them, which is the problem. Until Africans create models and democracy, their version of democracy, not our version, Western mentality versions of democracy, then there will be change. But until that time, no one's going to acknowledge because they don't acknowledge themselves at the moment. They don't see what they have is good. So, yeah, sorry. I just went on tangent.
No, that's okay. My final intervention, you can sit down and answer, and then I'll let... No, you can hold the mic because I'm going to ask. I didn't want you to stand too long.
Yeah.
My final intervention would be, then would you then say that the fifth column, which is in Africa, which means the European system of education, is what has actually devastated Africa's rise, and Africa would have to put together its own educational structure which speaks to its own realities? Because the Makerere University which is in East Africa, is actually rated the 22nd best in the whole world in terms of accreditation on the same basis as Harvard, Yale, Oxford, and Cambridge. So we do have an example even in Eurocentricity of that. But would you say that, since you're talking about that, that the disempowering of Africa started in nursery school when they were being taught of another mode of thinking which was not locked into their cultural realities?
Oh, yes, most definitely. And I could actually use a Canadian example of this as well. For instance, the Europeans came over to Canada, and our Native Americans were being taken over, enslaved, killed, cultural genocide. And we are taught European history. We're not taught Canadian history, very minuscule. And it's the same with what's happening in Africa. They're being taught European history. They're being taught what has happened in Europe. They're not being taught the great culture and what they've been doing and what they've been striving at. You know what I mean? They're being taught all of the, like, oh yeah, this is what happened. They did this, that's good for them. Like, if they change the education system, which we need to do in Canada, what we're doing now in Canada, then hopefully in the future it will create more empowered citizens and more empowered mentalities for the future.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce our two guests. Let's give them a big round of applause again. And since our beloved sister Florence has set the conversation rolling, possibly in about 2 minutes, we'd like you to stake your stall in regards to what are your views on the African-European relationships, on economic opportunities, challenges,
in Africa,
and the path forward. And just your name again so that everybody knows you.
My name is Hussein Afolabi, and I'm from Nigeria. I'm a graduate student here, International Economics, Business, and Cultural Diplomacy. So I've listened to a lot of contributions from everybody in terms of questions and answers. And well, I just want to say a few things. I understand the fact that you said we should move forward and not talk about the challenges. We should talk about opportunities. But I think before we start to talk about opportunities, we need to appreciate what the challenges are. Then I would like to ask a question. I mean, I wanted to ask you a question, you, yourself, or our distinguished guests here on the panel. Do you think the problem we have as Africans...
Okay, you're asking the question first?
The challenge, yeah, before I move on, do you think
Let's do this. Okay. State your stall so everybody knows your perspective. Okay. And then we dovetail with your question after. Otherwise, your position might get, in another conversation, might get lost.
Okay, my perspective, if I can take the issue of education first, because you mentioned education. I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm also a lawyer, and I'm versed in constitutional law. We have a constitutional responsibility. I can talk for Nigeria. We have a constitutional responsibility to fulfill all our international obligations. Now, we are part of UNESCO. UNESCO says all its members should spend at least 26% of its national budget in the educational sector. It's there, written black and white. And we signed into this treaty. And from 2001 down till the last budget, I'm familiar about that, we've spent less, 7%, 6%, 7%. The highest was 11%. And nobody, the international organization, they keep looking other sidewards. They're not complaining. No sanctions, nothing. And if it's another country or if it's something, they are quick to say, okay, sanctions. You know, so I think the problem is if the international community is saying, okay, Nigeria, for instance, you are not fulfilling your international obligation, then there should be sanctions. And I think the government will do what it's required of the government to do. I mean, spend what is required of your national budget on education. Then we'll be able to develop the educational sector. I think that's the solution. Let's just spend what is required, but we are not doing that. So the educational sector is underfunded. And that's why you see many Nigerians leaving the shores of Nigeria to come and spend hard-earned Nigerian money in Europe and in the US. Nobody wants to spend it. The last I checked, €1 is 475 naira. €1 is 475. Pounds is like 500 naira, and the dollar is like 370 something. So if you multiply that by the amount of money we pay in fees and living expenses, it's going into millions. And we get the money from Nigeria when the minimum wage is 19,800. No Nigerian wants to do. I don't want to do that. That's the truth. But the educational sector is so poor and decay, and I want something. I want to learn. I want to empower myself. So I need to move outside the shores of Nigeria, come to Europe and learn and go back. So if the government is doing what is required of the government, then I'm going to sit back and do something within the country. So it's still the fault of the international community. That's the problem. Now the question is, that's for education. I'm still going back to other things she raised. Now the question is, do you think the mainstream media is a problem in Africa? Do you really think it's a problem? It's the way they present Africans to Africa and to people who does not know about Africa. We're poor, we're thugs, disease-stricken country. Okay, I mean, you can hear what my colleague said, Linda. Nigerians are this, Tanzanians are that, South Africans are this. There are 190 million Nigerians now, approximately. How many Nigerians does she know to be able to generalize to say Nigerians are this way? It's what she sees in the media. I may not be 100% correct, but I think it is what she sees in the media. South African, Tanzanian also. It's what the media is trying to really divide us and present us in one light. And unfortunately, we are buying into that crap. I'm sorry. That's the truth. We need to start to appreciate ourselves as Africans, respect ourselves as Africans before anybody respects us.
Okay,
that's the truth. Now,
let's do this. I wanted to just give you 3 minutes to set your store. We're going to continue with that, but let's give him a big round of applause. And again, with the lady over there who picked a fight which nobody fought. It was called a peace fight. If you can kindly introduce yourself. An excellent opening.
Okay, again, my name is Catherine Obaitan, Oshotona Obaitan. I'm from Nigeria. And just within my time frame of 3 minutes, I want to say I still maintain the stand I took when I was giving my own opinion. Personally, I feel that Africa, Nigeria, Africa, countries in Africa would never, okay, let me not say never, would not improve, things would not change until we stand up and take responsibilities for ourselves. Like if we keep blaming people, if we keep blaming the international, there are a lot of issues to deal with. Like people are dealing with serious issues. We have serious issues in Nigeria, we have serious issues in Africa, but we have to do things for ourselves. No one will come do something for you. Do you expect someone in the US to leave whatever they are doing and come help you manage your own country? I feel it is a time for Africa to rise up and we start doing things ourselves. We fix our problems ourselves. Stop blaming the international community. We know, okay, they might have like some inputs in the issues and all, but blaming doesn't change anything. Blaming never solved any problem. If we keep blaming, we'll keep blaming till eternity. But I feel my position is still we have to stand up and do things ourselves, fix our issues ourselves, and stop blaming. That's where I stand.
Okay, and again, just to be just about it, I know, Florence, you started this beautiful discussion, but now we've had a whole lot of different views and comments. I'll also give you 3 minutes to now state your store for the panel discussion.
Okay, maybe to get back to her before I go to her question, I think until time, you know, they say until time or until death, we still entangle Europe to our wars. Because in Africa, why we have the issues of misuse of funds, bad governance, because they are part and parcel of us. Their interest is still in Africa. Africa is where the economic growing is going now, actually. Actually it's going better than any other continent in the world. But because they're interested in the business in Africa, they'll continue supporting the government which has bad governance, the leaders, and we talk, we do it, but everything in Africa is through leadership. Through leadership. Even if you take it or you do it, you as a person, yes, you'll do a smaller portion, I don't know how, before you are put into jail or you are killed inside and some stuff like that. But we'll keep on entangled. And when you say we keep on entangled, Europe is not that we are trying to blame them, but when you look at major scandals of billions of money in Africa, the Europeans are always there. They are always there. Be it be the business people, whatever, because their interest, they know, they also need Africa. As much as they think We need them, but also they need Africa because of the new emerging opportunities. And even since time immemorial, these have been there, and the corruption is the main issue. Yes?
Just hold your point so that she can finish her story. We're going to make it interactive, but hold your point. I want them to have a flow on it, and then we'll bring everyone in. Okay? Is everybody okay with that? Go on. You got 1 minute more.
So I think here, the issue is corruption. Which it's the one which is making the African continent not to move forward, but we have all the resources, we have everything. And our brothers or sisters, we entangle them because in everything they are there. And at the same time, they are the ones also encouraging these corruptions. Even in our elections, when you go, you do research, I think you will see there are cases and cases, issues and issues where they are all over. So even them also, I think as the general people or something, they need also to work with one-on-one or something, but they are the ones also who have a hand on bad governance and corruption. So here, we are not blaming people. We are not blaming anybody, but we are highlighting the issues. We are highlighting the challenges.
Thank you very much. I'll also maybe just take 2 minutes. It's very, very, very challenging to think that a vast continent with so much resources and so much humanity doesn't even have a pocket of brilliant opportunity that we can tap into, like in chemistry, and use it as a crystallization template to have a conglomeracy of the others, just learning from it and moving forward. I mean, I am pretty baffled that you're talking about nearly 1 billion people, and we can't pick some shining lights like stars in the sky and say, that can guide us out of the darkness. Is everybody with me so far? And all of Africa did not go under slavery. Ethiopia was never under colonial master, never. So if we begin to separate some of the discussions that we're having, we begin to find pockets that don't fit the mainstream perspective. Africa has, like any human development, the ability to take its potential forward and to act as a great player for not just African finesse, but for global finesse. So somewhere, we keep looking at the glass, and again, welcome, His Excellency. We keep looking at the glass maybe being half empty instead of half full. And possibly, if we keep looking at the half full, the half empty will dissipate because everybody's got problems. But if you move as if the whole world is sitting on your shoulders, that's going to be your self-fulfilling reality. Every country, every community has challenges. And how do we steer the African reality from the victim to the stories of we can do it? And that's what, in these August things, we're trying to do. And I'll finish in 30 seconds, the media. If somebody is not telling your story right, then you have got to take control and articulate your own story. True? If someone is not telling your story right, and Nigeria has a fabulous film industry called Nollywood, why can't Nollywood be used as a vehicle to tell the Nigerian story so well that the whole world would know that the stereotypes of 419, etc., is a small microcosm but does not represent 190 million people? So those are the footings that I would like us to keep this conversation. I'm going to keep coming back because there are great things in the midst of the challenge. All of you sitting, a constitutional lawyer, MA lawyer, that's brilliant. But does that determine, like you did say, the totality of the African environment? And in doing this, I know that Mr. President is over here. We are actually on the panel, so let's give him a big round of applause too. Give him time to warm him because I'm going to just get him. Again, we're very, very honored that you've taken time out to come. We're discussing, again, our keynote speaker for the afternoon. Beg your pardon. Now I'm getting the dumpling. I would have said, if I was in France, I would have said the frog in my throat, but I'm going to use an African thing. I'm getting the dumpling in my throat. The keynote speaker, Mr. President, brought a topic on the African-European relationships on economic opportunities, challenges, and the path. For the last pretty much over an hour, we have moved from her presentation, which she did a brilliant presentation, but she deliberately just put a lot of stimulating thoughts in 2 sheets. And it's carried on past then. So I know you've just come in, but I know also with you moving in terms of the corridors of power, governance and others, you'll have a view, even if it's in people relationships, even from a European standpoint, and I know your purview and intelligence would speak to that, on something that you can share with us in 3 minutes on what your initial perspective would be on the African-European relationships in opportunities, challenges, and possibly the path forward. You're welcome to the Rise of Africa Conference 2016, Mr. President.
Good evening. I just coming from Romania directly for airport, and I reserve my speech and my intervention for tomorrow. But now I'm very glad to meet you, to be here. And let me to present now a confession, because for me, Africa is not a continent. It's not only, I'm geologist, and for me, I'm professor of geology, geologist, and for me, Africa is a miracle. It's extraordinary for geology, for geography, for history. But above all, for me, Africa represents the soul of Africans. And was my destiny to meet African students. My first presence in professor in university was in 1966. And now in this year, I am 40 years professor in Bucharest University. And in my field, in geology. But in these 40 years, I have had hundreds of students from Africa, from about different countries. Why? Because natural resources, mineral resources, is extremely important for progress in Africa. And many students selected Romania for high education. And for me, it was a change during dictatorship regime of Ceausescu in the close, because my country was until 1989 like a prison. Was impossible for us, including professor, to don't have free circulation. But African students represented for us a possibility to know other people. Now is very usual for you to be together in this globalized world. In that time, in my country, like a prison, was completely isolated. And this relation becoming a friendship relation. And I am very proud to sign. I was elected after fall of communist regime. I was elected president of university. And I signed also 100 diplomas for African students. Graduate, for master, and for PhD. I am very proud, because these students, former students, in Romanian, not only in Bucharest University, in Romanian University. I was elected also a president of National Council of all Romanian universities. These students having diplomas in graduate, master, and PhD in Romania represented an excellent intellectual elite in different African countries. It is extremely important to keep this relation. Exactly now, when I was invited in different African countries, in embassy I met for my former students, many was married in Romania with a Romanian spouse and have family, and they represented the excellent bridge between people from Africa and the Romanian people. And we talk about cultural diplomacy. Sure. We have now a master in cultural diplomacy here. We talk theory about theoretical approach, but this is a practical approach, because don't exist it without this possibility to be together, especially for young generation. This is a moment when a student is a moment of love, is a moment of friends, is a moment, and all life we keep what represented this period in our. This is a profound sense of cultural diplomacy. Not only speeches or different conferences and talks. This is a core, because this, especially for African people, because for Africans, sentiments of friendship is extremely important, because it's natural. And I remember many stories, and for me, represented in my memory, represented this extraordinary apport of African people in a world of friendship. This is enough for my first intervention.
Thank you very much. We'll now do this with the panel. We'll let them bounce around with a few discussions, give about another 5-7 minutes, and then we'll open it out. So at least they can begin to juxtapose their own panel views. So I'll kick off over on this side with my beloved brother, the constitutional lawyer, if that's okay for me to. Hussein, okay. Yeah. I still like the constitutional lawyer because that's Obama. You know, Obama is also a constitutional lawyer, so that kind of stuck with me. But Hussein, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Cultural diplomacy. You've always got to be on top of your game. Start up with the media. Now you can go with the media. And panel, he's going to kick up something about the media. Now the question on the media, Hussein. Hussein, you had a question on the media, which...
Yeah, I thought I asked the question already. Do you think the media is part of the problems we have in Africa? The way the African people have been presented, do you think the media is really presenting us in a bad light to the world in diaspora and amongst ourselves? That's the question I want to ask. Do you think if we can really overcome that obstacle in the media, do you think things would be better? Because, in fact, in the morning when Mark was giving his presentation, he said the people who are looking for aid in Africa actually asking for aid because they're coming to Africa, because they're telling people, okay, we are sick and we're poor, as opposed to come and invest in Africa. I mean, Mark's speech and the Ethiopian people, the expert from the Ethiopian embassy actually presented something to whet our appetite as to investing in Africa. But he said there was a guy in U2, the band, that was able to raise a lot of money under the guise of people are sick, people are dying, people are poor. Aid as opposed to trade. Do you think media is really presenting us in a bad light?
I'll actually add something to it quickly. Yes, and I'm going to be very controversial. The media is actually presenting Africa in a very, very bad light, because Africa, once the cradle of civilization, is now a continent of dead bones and mass starvation. Africa has under 1 billion people, media, under 1 billion people. But Africa is also being touted that it's overpopulated. In fact, if you do look at it, they say it's one of Africa's problems, overpopulation, media perspective. You can take all the 1 billion people in Africa, of 54 countries, and you can actually put all the 1 billion people in Morocco, Algeria, and Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the same size as subcontinental India. India has 1.3 billion people more than Africa. So you can take all the people in Africa and put them in 3 countries, and you have 51 countries empty. But the media says Africa is overpopulated, so they have to have family planning. Now, these are the statistics. I've just given you something, media impression. But you can take everybody in Africa and put them in 3 African countries, or take everybody in Africa and you can put them in India, and you still have there'll be 300,000 short, and Africa will be bare. Media.
Yeah, also answering the question on media. Okay, yeah, we know that the media always says this, and the media always says that, like they say, bad news sells. No one wants to hear. People would rather listen to an earthquake or typhoon or whatever. You know, it moves, bad news moves around very fast. But in as much as the media, gives this bad image about Africa, but it also gives an opportunity using media to change the image and perception about Africa. So it can be like a two-edged sword. Yeah, we know the media says bad things about Africa. Everybody's a thief, or once you are black, you are a criminal, and da-da-dam. But Africa can also, that's where nation branding comes in. Let me give an example of South Korea now. South Korea is one country that, despite all the things, all the bad things that it says, but South Korea has used its media and its entertainment industry to change the world's perception about itself. Like right now, the world's eyes is focused on South Korea. Why? Because South Korea did not wait on the media, because if they had waited on the media would continue to say, oh, South Korea can implode at any time, oh, North Korea has killed everybody in South Korea, But once news about the issues in South Korea starts to rise, then they come up with their own to tell the world that, yeah, even though we have these issues, but so South Korea is safe, we are doing this and we are doing that. So in as much as we know the media is part of the problem, but instead of blaming it all again, going back to the blame game, instead of blaming it all on the media, we can also use the media to our own advantage. We don't have to wait to let them, you give people the opportunity to see you. So if the media says something and you don't work on changing what they say about you, then it stays that way. So I feel even though the media says bad about Africa, but we also have the responsibility to stand up to change what the media says and what the world sees us to be.
Florence, in your presentation, you made a point about the roadmap 2014 to 2017 implements the strategy in 5 areas of dialogue and cooperation. This is between Europe and Africa. What has the media on both sides been able to do to either enhance the opportunities or delineate the challenges, or maybe finally craft a path forward on both sides?
Chairman,
yes.
Excuse me, interrupt. My wife waiting me to go to hotel. We will be together tomorrow.
That's it. Let's give the president a big round of applause. Thank you very much for coming. We need another glass of water for him. A glass.
It's okay.
We need a glass for him.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
He can take this. It's clear.
Okay, so Florence, again on to the media.
Yeah, when we talk about the media, maybe, with the media, I think also they need to eat, they need to sleep, they need money. So for them, they have to tell a story. But still in Africa, we still have successful stories. they've said in Africa, like many countries, Kenya, even we have, I think we are the leading in all of the Eastern Central Africa on financial and banking, women finance banking, microfinance and taking, the real estate, actually, many people are buying, holiday homes there. So what does that tell us? That is safe, and we are selling and we are getting these revenues. So, but the media, yes, they have there's bad publicity, good, as long as they sell their story. To me, as I understand, they know they have to do it because also they have to eat, they need money. And even some are corrupt because some of them, they work for some people or some certain group of people. This is how most of the media do that. So I think maybe it's high time also they start highlighting. We have a lot of successful stories in Africa, like in Mozambique. We have, I think it's the largest overall gas now in the world, the second. They have
largest gas in the world.
In Mozambique. They have the oil, and there are a lot of good, but the media will always say there was a tribal clashes in certain part of the town. They don't say, because they are in Mozambique. I was there in an investment that was in November last year, whereby we have the Germans, we have the British, and everybody, Americans, everyone, they are there for this opportunity so that they can be able to do business and what. So, as I've said again, Africa is the hub of investment as we are talking.
Thank you very much. Let me give you a media impression from Hussein. When you see Sister Florence, when you see Florence sitting over there in her lovely traditional clothes, if there was a picture of Florence, now let's be real honest about this, and not only Florence, you also may have some women who are scientists in Iran wearing the hijab. But if you saw Florence or you saw a woman in Iran wearing a hijab and her Muslim clothes, would this immediately come to your mind? Now let's be honest about it. Subliminal suggestions. She holds a degree in law and a Bachelor of Education. And she also has a degree in leadership and management. And you're looking at the traditional clothes. Would that kind of be the immediate thing that would jump to you? Or maybe if you saw Florence in a very corporate, padded shoulder, the one that stands up straight, executive suit, which of them would almost immediately equate that fits the Florence who sits down over here? And I told you that this is just one sheet of a 21-sheet CV. Look at her now, or look at the lady who is an atomic scientist in Iran wearing her hijab. But when she comes in as a picture, if I read this out to you and I didn't say that was the person who we're talking about, would that equate to you? But show of hands, yes or no, let's have a vote, a social survey. That would equate to you. You'd be able to relate a law degree to that or a hijab almost immediately. You would see that. What about the rest? You wouldn't see that. What about you? No. Can I have let's just have a show of hands quickly. Who feels that if you see somebody in their cultural, especially in this corporate academic world, if you see most people in their cultural thing which does not represent another image, a known image, you would associate them with higher and qualified education? Let's say all those who say no, you won't associate. Let's show by show of hand quickly. Okay? And then let's say those who feel that, yes, you almost be. Okay, looks like the nose have it. I'm just trying to say impressions. Impressions have a great way of how we engage with people. That's why the institution of cultural diplomacy is to break down those set impressions, that you can see people for what really they are than rather what they express themselves from their cultural background. Does that make sense? And I feel that the African continent possibly has been seen in a lot of cases like how she dresses. And how she dresses is not what you go to school and see as being educated and intelligent. True or false? And not only her, but many other indigenous communities, whether in Europe, whether in America, all over the world, their way of appearing, cultural, does not equate to how we are trained. So we begin to engage with them from that point over on our preconceived things that they are not worth having a higher engagement, so opportunities doesn't come into play. Does that make sense? We're talking about the rise of Africa.
Well, when you talk about having a really traditional appearance, so when you talk about having a traditional appearance when you're representing your country on an international forum, honestly, from my point of view, being an Indian, I would expect my representative to be in a sari or in a kurta that shows that this is where I come from, and it is no less than any other Western country. The clothes I wear will not define my level of education or my level of intelligence or the opinion I hold. It's not going to be you shouldn't be considering it because it doesn't affect your brain. It doesn't affect your opinions. You're just showing to the world that you're proud where you come from. So why shouldn't you show that?
I would help you out why some people are afraid of showing that. James Brown was a very famous money-making presenter or entertainer. But then when he had the song out, Say It Loud, I'm Black and Proud, a lot of his audience dropped. So I agree with what you're saying, but not too many people see it in that light, and that's all I wanted to put across. My brother works in India, and most of your top bankers, administrators, they're in the beautiful sari. And I'm in Southall in London, and most of the multimillionaires and the lords, they're just like that. But it's not the impression that immediately, stand up, let's take a look at you. Now, see this gentleman over here. If I went with him for a job at the Central Bank of Ghana, who do you really think, without opening our mouth, they will feel is much more qualified for that environment? No, I'm not being discriminated, but I'm just saying impressions. Until you get to know the people, and that's what cultural diplomacy, this is part of what this is about. Helps you to see the person, like you said, beyond the stereotypes. Yes, the stereotypes. And the stereotypes can hold people back because you won't give me the opportunity if you've got a prejudicial perception of what you think I am. There.
My name's Shayan Konchkov. I'm from Sacramento, California. I am an Iranian American, and so my entire life I've lived this double life of being in America and how Americans work, but then also being very close to the culture of Iran. And I know, at least firsthand for myself, that, like you were saying, whatever traditional garb or whatever people are wearing from their own culture does not translate for, at least in America, that they're educated or something like that, because they immediately see that, okay, since they look different from me, then they are, backwards minded, or they're not as mentally evolved or as smart or as all those things, because especially in America, everybody thinks like, oh yeah, we're, number one, we're the best, so everybody else is not like that. So I can definitely tell you, at least from my experience, that that's absolutely how it works. If they don't look like you, then they can't be in the same level as you. Absolutely. So I just wanted to.
For those of you who read the British newspapers, go and just. There's an article in the British newspaper today from people coming from Oxbridge, and actually saying if they dress down, they still will be able to get employed in a job rather than wearing the normal suit they would wear. There's an article which just came out today about appearance. It's in the Telegraph today. If you do want it, I've got one in my bag. I can actually show. I was reading it on the plane.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura. I come from Kosovo.
Hi, Daula. How you doing?
No, Laura.
Laura. Hi, Laura. How you doing?
Good, thank you. So I just wanted to say that we all have prejudices, and we all, when we see something, we generalize it, not just for African people or Africa, but also people in Europe. For example, if I say I'm from Kosovo, people immediately, like Europeans, will think, oh, Kosovo, the war, and stuff like that. But they just don't know us, and they just generalize. If they see us in our traditional costume, of course, they're not gonna like the same thing as Africans in a traditional costume. It's not just for Africans. That's just a comment.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
How many languages do you speak?
English, a bit of Spanish, and Albanian.
So you're trilingual. And what is your educational background?
I'm Bachelor of Arts in Management and Public Policy.
But from Kosovo.
Yeah.
The Kosovo, she's trilingual and she's got a bachelor in management, can contribute effectively. But we're talking about opportunities. Your point is raised. If you looked at her and you just looked at the CV and you saw Kosovo, you might dismiss the great potential that she's got to bring to the game. So now we're going back to Europe and Africa, opportunities. How does this play in 2016? Even if Africa did not play the victim game, how does this play in 2016 with the images that are being shown of what is perceived to be Africa? You had your hand up?
Yes.
Is everyone okay? We're not going to be too long because I know we've got something else, but we'll keep it maybe another 15 minutes, so get your contribution in. We're trying to know one another. I hope I'm not boring everybody. If I am, please raise your hand.
Yes, in terms of opportunities, I think we have few examples here, like Madame Florence and you yourself, if you look at how you dress. First of all, I would say you are very brave. And secondly, we shouldn't forget that you guys are completely established in every aspect of life. So you are strong to push and push hard for the rest of us. So talking about opportunities, I think the diaspora need to play an important role. Now, the second point is the research that our colleague here, I forgot her name. Hello. Yeah, the research that Michael did about
the meat industry?
About the meat industry. Now, I don't know, but maybe the research was here in Germany. It's the same country through the German International Cooperation, which I had worked my ass so hard for.
Lord have mercy.
In that area as an expert, a German-trained expert micro-enterprise developer in Ghana, Rwanda, and Sierra Leone. Now, they produce excess and dump it on us back home, and then at the same time have projects there that are developing the micro-enterprises. So, it doesn't work. It doesn't, it doesn't tally. If you are killing the small markets back home, then why do you have an organization that is supposed to be helping them grow? So I think the solution will be respect. Our agenda, it should be transparent, and we have to be really honest from both sides. I think that is the most important thing that is needed. Yeah.
The lady at the back had a question way in the beginning, so let's not forget about her.
Okay. Okay.
And we've got a gentleman over there, too. I saw you raise your hand.
Hi.
The one with the Costco cup, coffee, whatever it is.
My name is Ranim Rashid. I'm from Egypt.
You're from Egypt.
Yeah, I had a comment about the traditional clothing. It's the courageous thing to do when you're going to speak somewhere to wear your traditional clothes. It's the proud thing to do. But I'm a proud Muslim girl. I find it easier for me to engage in a conversation about my religion when I don't look like a typical Egyptian, like a typical Muslim girl. I'm not veiled, so people don't directly assume that I'm Muslim. And when I start talking about my religion, the sense of fear, the misconception about Islam goes away, and they start actually listening to what I'm saying. So actually not dressing in my typical traditional religious outfit makes it easier for me somehow to deliver my message. So it might be the courageous thing to do, it might be the proud thing to do, but sometimes it's an obstacle for you to deliver your message or your point. That's my comment.
I wear this as my cultural thing. My hair's also, I've got a lot of hair. But now I'm very used to, as soon as I get to the checkpoint at the airport, I don't even wait for them to ask me. I take it off because I know that's the first thing they're going to do. And today, not only did they tell, when I took it off, I thought that was the end. They told me, go to the side and take off your shoes too, because possibly I have a bomb strapped around my waist.
I would like to notice something about this point because it's not true actually. Today, if we can't blame the European societies, the international committee that is, let's say, discriminating blacks or Muslim peoples or distinguished people that have some culture, some different culture than the globalization, or they wear something different than others that makes them different. Because actually, I have a personal point of view about this, and today there is a big tolerance in the world, and especially from the Europeans that are accepting everyone, and they are not even for the job, even as a student, even as a refugee, as someone's asking help, even if he's Muslim or black, it doesn't matter for them. And I have an example to give you that in Beirut, for example, in the German embassy in Beirut, Syrians that are Muslims, refugees, poor, demanding help from the European governments, are being accepted to come to Germany before, for example, a Lebanese businessman who is not demanding even not money or food or work or anything else, and he may be Christian as well. For another example, on applying for a visa, I have friends that went to apply for a visa, and it was a Shiite family. You know, the Shiite is like a sect in the Islam. So they went there to apply for a French visa, and the father had a big
beard.
Yeah, he seems like actually. He's my friend, but when he went there, I said, "Don't go like that because you will look like a terrorist and you don't have the visa." So he went there, and he's the only one that had the visa for 5 years. And his girl, that doesn't seem Muslim at all, she only have it for 3 months. So this is not a criteria for me. The tolerance and the Europeans are being bearable, totally bearable for all statuses, all perception. They don't have different perception from me because all people are treated equal. That's only for...
Okay, we've worked, hold the point, we've worked the media, just still hold your points on the media. Let me come back to the panel, because I don't want the panel to feel that we've just brought the lovely panel up here to sit for photo shots. So we'll start again with you. So we've done the media thing. We're still looking at opportunities, Euro-African opportunities and challenges.
Okay, I don't know if, like when she was speaking, we were like having a little side conversation, but like if you raising the issue of discrimination is a whole entirely different ball game, but not trying to be like the devil's advocate, but trust me, I seriously would disagree more with what you said than, you know, because if you're talking about opportunities, even just the fact that I'm really trying not to raise this issue of discrimination. I'm trying so hard.
Well, you're in the, well, I think we're all pretty much well-fed this afternoon and kind of real calm and peaceful and mature, that if she raises an issue, we just know it's an issue for discussion, and it's not really to insult anybody's personality. And also, I think you trust that if I feel that it's going beyond a aspect of dignity, I would stop the conversation. Is everybody comfortable with that? So if I do feel that it is actually affecting somebody directly, I would stop the conversation, okay? Are we all comfortable with that? Because I don't want her to feel inhibited in having a mature conversation, as long as it's respectful and it upholds the dignity of one another, okay? That's part of what cultural diplomacy is.
Okay, Yeah, so as a diplomat in training, in as much as we know that we're talking about the Afro-Euro relations now, in as much as we know that, we have European and Afro relations, but I tell you this, like, in all sincerity, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. Now, for example, I've been to quite a lot of countries around the world, and among everyone I've met, I think the norm is for you to have faced like discrimination one way or the other. You being odd is you not having to face. You being odd is you not having any experience in that before. Now, I was talking to my friends like last week, and I went somewhere here. And when I came back home and I was trying to explain to them what happened, and I made a comment and I was like, it's kind of sad when you have to go out of your way to make people feel comfortable because you are black. I'm trying not to, but just really basically, a lot of things have to, I'm going away from that place. Anyway, a lot of things have to like change, or we have to make, even though I know the onus is on ourselves, but if this new generation, everyone here, if we still keep building on the mentality of the past generations, then I don't think in as much as we do business economically, or in as much as Europe invests in Africa, but there are some still fundamental basic things that still needs to be resolved, still needs to be touched, still needs to change. Yeah, let me end it there.
You see how very interesting our conversations are. And we're just a microcosm of even a street in Berlin. Can you imagine everybody having a conversation on just that? You really did us a favor by just making it 2 pages. Because I don't know what kind of conversation we would have had if you'd made it some more. But how do we steer this back to what are the opportunities, Hussein? How do we steer this conversation to what are the opportunities? How do we go past the challenges to grasp the opportunities? Because we've got to end within the next 10 minutes on something that gives us that we've got opportunities that we can get. Because an opportunity is not an opportunity if you can't grasp it, right? So there are some opportunities. In all this gloom, there are some opportunities. And even if we can get the crumbs of that opportunities, maybe tomorrow they'll give us half a toast. But at least let's try to hold on to something, because at this point, on the rise of Africa, it looks like we're going to leave and we won't have anything to rise on, because we're taking all the stepping stones up and saying they're slippery. So let's find, what are the opportunities, Hussein? Opportunities. Yes, there's discrimination, and yes, they don't like the way we look, but they're still pumping money into the country, right? And still the Lebanese, I know in Kumasi they've got John Makazel, and I went to school with Lina Safi, and I've got loads of them, friends all around, brilliant people. My aunt actually married a Lebanese man. She owns a spare parts thing over in KJTia. Brilliant people, fantastic people, but they saw opportunity and they grasped it, right? And we are sitting by the well and we're thirsty. Something just doesn't add up. Opportunities. I mean, are we thirsty enough in the rise of Africa? The ICD is giving us an opportunity, the rise of Africa. Brought these brilliant minds to keep the opportunity for the rise of Africa. So Hussein, opportunities.
Yes, we are thirsty for growth. I mean, that's a fact. And they're pumping money into the country. That's also a fact. But they're taking it back, giving us with the right hand, taking it back with the left hand. So when we say, because if I want to address what you said just quickly, 30 seconds, I'll be done before I move forward. When we say partly the international community are to be blamed, the communities are to be blamed, there are facts and figures. I mean, I won't go into details about that, but just a little bit of, taking you down back. In 2014, Nigeria is the 20th largest economy in the world. In 2014, we were on that path. We're going to be an economic global leader. We were on that path. Nigeria was on that path. We were gradually leaving the oil behind. It's difficult, and we're focusing on agriculture. We were on that path. But there was an election, And the international community got themselves immensely involved. There was a change in power. There was a problem with the currency. The IMF leader came in, and all of a sudden, we're down. We're on the path of being the next great 11. We're on that path. You can look up all these figures. But there was an intrusion. There was like the international community came in, got themselves involved, and sadly, unfortunately, we are no longer on that path. Like right now, that's just 2 years, less than 2 years down the road. So we have facts and we have figures when we talk about international communities giving us problems within the African continent. Now, talking about before opportunities, because I'll go into opportunities. Talking about the prejudices. I'm living in Europe, and I've experienced in my own special way. So many, I can give you 2 instances. I've been to a club, not once, not twice, and they come to ask me to buy drugs because I'm black. That's the truth. That's just the truth. I don't sell drugs. It's not written on my head that I sell drugs, but they come to meet me, hey, buddy, you have something to score. They want to buy drugs. I'm black. That's what they see in the media. Okay, so that's one. I can go on and on and on and on, but let me just cut it short. Now, the opportunities. Let's talk about opportunities right now. We need to see ourselves differently. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to believe that we can do things differently from the way the West are doing things. I mean, these 2 different continents, we can't have the same solution to the same problems. 2 different continents, we have different ethnic groups, different religious beliefs. We can't have the same solution to the same problems. That's what I think. So we need to believe in ourselves. We need to believe we can really resolve this problem. But the problem is we don't believe in ourselves. We think what is coming from the West is the best solution to our problems. We have, on a regional level, Nigeria will belong to ECOWAS, Ghana, Gambia, I believe, a few countries, ECOWAS. And in ECOWAS, now it's no longer because Ghana pulled out recently. I don't know whether you followed the news. Free, just like European Union, free movement within the region. I don't have a Nigerian passport. I have an ECO passport. Okay? Free movement within the region. Now, trade also, although with some restrictions. Now, we were on the verge of having one single currency, the ECO currency, just like the euro. But it didn't work out because foreign experts came in to advise us. Advise. I didn't say anything bad. Advise us. So we dropped that idea, and we never visited it. Now, recently, Ghana pulled out, saying if you're coming from any other country, you need to get a visa when you get to the airport and all that and all that. So it's not working. And the same problem that's a regional level. On a national level, the African Union, we have our problems also as regards to electing of members in the community, the tenure, who's going to be the president on a rotational basis like that. We have so many problems. So we try to borrow ideas from the West, and unfortunately, like over 100 years down the road, that idea is not working. That's the problem. So if we start to look inwards, maybe, just maybe, we would start to find a solution to the problem. Talking about the media, I must also give credit also, because I blame the media, the foreign media, the mainstream media. But, I mean, Deutsche Welle in Germany, they are really, I need to give credit at least to some extent. Channels Television, who's from Nigeria? You're from Nigeria. Channels Television. Channels Television is the best TV station in Nigeria and arguably the best in Africa. And recently, they partnered with Deutsche Welle on showing, on global warming. Global warming, Africa is the worst hit. You don't get to see that. I mean, they twist numbers a little bit, and but global warming, Africa is the worst hit, and we are the least contributors to global warming. That's the truth also. But you may not get to see this in your research. You may see some other figures twisted and all that, but that's the truth. So Deutsche Welle and Channels Television partnered. This is cultural diplomacy now. 2 media giants partnering to showcase how Nigerians are trying to solve, this is not our problem, trying to solve the issue of global warming. Making sure the plastic bottles and everything is not going into landfill. We're trying to dispose of it, trying to recycle. They are showing the world in general. They are capturing now, in turn, capturing investment into that sector, recycling and all that. That's a contribution. So this is a non-state actor, Channels Television, he decided to look inwards. My people are doing something great to resolve global warming. He partnered with a media giant in Germany, and they are doing something, and we are getting investments in the country. So let's look inwards. There are potentials. Black is beautiful. I believe in that. This is not a statement I'm just saying tongue-in-cheek. I believe black is beautiful. I strongly believe in that. But I still believe we have a problem. And the problem is not because we have a problem. The problem is because the media is making us see that you guys have a problem. That's the truth. You have a problem. You're thugs, you're crooks, you have disease, HIV, Ebola, everything. You see everything.
Not even.
So,
Okay.
I mean, that's just look inwards and we find a solution. And when we look, one last thing. So just to wrap it all up. When you look inwards and look for a solution, then they are interested. They are interested. We have tourist attraction. We have lots of tourist attraction in Africa. I don't want to keep counting numbers. But how many Africans travel within Africa? How many Africans travel within Africa? Okay, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. Myself. We have a lot of tourist attraction in Africa. Tourist attraction, beautiful lakes, beautiful rivers, the safari, the animals, very beautiful. But how many Africans, just a tiny fraction of Africans, travel within Africa? They all want to come to Europe, They all want to go to the US. They want to do something else. But so if we promote that tourism within Africa, promote ourselves, we can, look for a political solution that works within.
Okay.
Not somebody coming to tell us.
I'm going to have to. What we're going to do is we're going to take. See, the gentleman there hasn't made a contribution. Yes, you, sir. If you can make a contribution, and we'll take one more. Unless there's some 30-second ones, I'm trying to round this off because I really appreciate everybody taking this extra time. Now I know that when I walk out of this, you all are going to blame me that the little food you had for lunch, I have made it actually all just go. You're now hungry again. The gentleman over there.
All right, my name is Nikolai. I'm from Romania. So I just wanted to comment on all this. I don't know much about Africa other than my experience when I went to the World Cup in 2010 in South Africa. I know nothing. But honestly, I think part of this conference and cultural diplomacy as it is, I think I had so many ideas about Africa. Oh, Africa has this problem, or Africa has this issue. This is what we need to do, we as in the West or my country or America, to fix this problem. But here I realize there are many issues that I had no idea about. I had no idea of the tribal issues. I never even factored that in. And I think, I want President Constantinescu's job as president. And, if I ever get there...
You would.
This is great to know, But if I ever get there, being able to hear people from Africa, people from these separate tribes and countries, and having my own opinion and able to discuss that with them, enables me to kind of cooperate. If I ever had to go to Africa, and if I ever had, because, I want to be a diplomat as well, I take this in consideration. I realize the tribal issues. I realize the foreign investments, and I think every one of us believes in one solution that we're very strong about, but to be able to take in everybody's opinion, I think that's really the beauty of cultural diplomacy. And now I can walk out and at least know something about Africa. So that's all I wanted to say. Anyway, I know we're getting all pessimistic.
Thank you very much. And we'll take 30 seconds from you. We'll take 30 seconds from you because we're running out of time right now. We need to go. You haven't contributed. So 30 seconds.
Yeah, just have...
We'll let you make a contribution too, sir. Okay? And the lady at the back and the lady over there will just take the last. You don't want to do any... You were or you weren't? Oh, you're blowing? Okay, cool. Did you want? Okay, we'll take one. We won't take any more on this side. We're going to take 1, 2, 3, and the lady at the back, 4. Because remember, we still have tomorrow. Exactly. And we've still got some more to go. So everybody will have an engagement. I just tried to get everybody. I hope I've done an average job to get everybody at least warmed up to know one another, that we can continue the conversation. That's all this has been about. So 30 seconds, and I'm really 30 seconds.
I don't know much about African culture either, so I was wondering if you could tell me what you would consider one of the greatest cultural strengths of Africa or Nigeria, Kenya. Those are all different countries, and what you would consider the greatest strength, cultural strength.
Familyhood, humanity. And in South Africa, they refer to it as Ubuntu. The organic connection between people. So the family is not just a nuclear family, it affects everybody, even to 4 or 5 generations. That close interaction. Whatever they have, they try to share, or they try to rally around. Familyhood. That's the great. Yes, it would. If it is institutionalized and moved off on a skill base, it would. That's what the Lebanese have, that's what the Italians have, but they've been able to make it into a strong force for the family.
Yeah, hello, I'm Katarina from Germany. First of all, I'd like to thank you all because I learned so much today already, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. I was just wondering, I don't really expect an answer to it, but maybe it's just stuck in my mind that first, this interference, whether it makes sense at all from the West to interfere, because on the one hand I hear that EU, for example, is not doing enough or is not giving enough money, and also when I heard about, well, there was a human rights issue and no one actually stood up from the EU, I mean, that would be an interference. But then on the other hand I hear, oh, there were elections, maybe someone considered this to be, want to observe this was a bad thing. So maybe, I don't know if we can go for that tomorrow, but whether interference in general is a good or bad thing, and who decides on that, who should interfere and where. Because if I hear then, yeah, okay, if you just give money to our governments, this is a bad thing. But then again, if NGOs go in and then they go out again, also seems to be a bad thing. It just seems to me is there a good solution? Or maybe we can discuss that tomorrow. I just wanted to throw this idea in because I'm kind of in between whether this is like we should support in certain issues and who decides whether are good or bad issues to support. And my second point was I had very short experience being in Togo in West Africa, and I don't know if this actually kind of refers to the self-perception of Africans in general or to Togolese people, but this was such a weird experience that when I was there and I don't know, for example, that's a stupid example, but when I needed a toilet, because public toilets are really rare in Lomé, I could go to any 4-star hotel and they let me in. I looked like I didn't shower for days because I was traveling through, but I could enter every hotel, I could go anywhere, and I felt it was because I was white. No one was ever asking whether I lived in that hotel. But on the other hand, also lots of, for example, taxi drivers expected me to pay more. I'm used to that because I'm a tourist, but they were really, really experienced with these hotels, as I said. Like, I was even saying, I don't even live here, but can I enter? And they were just like, oh, I don't care. I don't know if this is, like, actually refers to this, because I felt this was so weird, where there are beggars outside of the hotel waiting for people to drop money, and I can just enter, although I don't even live in the hotel. Whether that actually refers to that, whether that has anything to do with it, or whether that was just a weird random experience that has nothing to do with it. But I was just wondering, like, because I felt like I was treated really in a certain way, like as if I was kind of more important. Not, of course, with the family I lived with, of course, but...
Okay, what we'll do is we'll note your points. For those who have something, as we network after this, keep the conversations going. Definitely tomorrow in many of the presentations, some things will come out. Remember, we still got some more presentations to go, but feel very free. If you want to talk to any of the panelists too, feel free to do that. Definitely exchange cards And don't keep your cards, in your pocket. Please make the contact after the conference. If you're not going to contact me, don't come and get a card from me, please, because I won't give it to you. I have to have a signed declaration that you're going to have a 7-year contact with me before I give you my information. We had the lady over there. 30 seconds, please. And then the gentleman here. And then we'll just have a 30-second roundup with our esteemed panelists. And then hopefully we can all go and have a well-deserved break until the evening, what's on the evening program. Have you all enjoyed yourselves? I hope you're not saying it because I'm asking.
Okay, I just wanted to add that we are, when you are talking about the opportunities, and it's important to think about which are the opportunities, and I wanted to say that when I've been in Africa and then I've come back to Europe, of course I felt guilty for the way of life we have here. Of course I felt sad for the things I've seen there, but I also realized the humanity you were talking about and the human capital you have and the huge things we have to learn from Africa. So I think the opportunity is in finding the own model of development for this continent, because we have seen that the Western one, it doesn't work. So yes, use this intelligence, these human values, and this fraternity and everything to create your own model of development, and I think that's the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And finally, the gentleman here.
Yes, my name is Muntaga Diaw. I'm coming from Senegal in West Africa. So sorry, my English is a little bit poor. I'm coming from a French country, French-speaking country. So I would just tell that Africa is the opportunity. In fact, all these countries, we have problems. Sometimes we have most of problem inside the country between two countries. People are talking about between Senegal and Gambia. But Senegalese people and Gambia's people, there is no problem. Now I'm here since 2 days. All my friends that are Gambian people, there is no problems. There is happen some political problem. So we have a lot of problems, the kind of problem in Africa. But you have the same problem also in Ireland, in France, in Spain. Everywhere in the world you can find this kind of problem. But we have a specific problem in Africa. It is the major. How many people knows what the Ethiopian people shows this morning? What is this expectation? If I tell you Rwanda, maybe you can answer
Rwanda, genocide,
civil war, genocide, something like this. But now Rwanda is one of the best country developing in everywhere. Nigeria, you talk about some. If I tell you Senegal, for example, is one example of democracy, one top of democracy of the world. We are 95% of Muslim, just 5% of Christianism. When you will be there in Christmas, maybe you think that all the country is Christian. We are an example in tolerance, in religious. We have different ethnics. We have a lot of advantages in Africa. We have the sun, we have the fraternity, we have the resources, we have everything. Yes, we love something. We don't have the infrastructure, maybe. You have some weaknesses here. Okay, you are suffering of discrimination. When white people coming in Africa, yes, we bill you more because we are expecting that you have a lot more money than us. When we come here, people are asking for you for if you are selling drug or not. I was in Shanghai, between Dubai to Shanghai, this woman checked my ticket plane 3 times just to make sure that I have a ticket on a business place, just because I'm an African. I'm a businessman in Africa. I'm African, but I used to travel in business. Why not? But these kind of things, we African, forget it. Every people, Indian guys, they put their, everything.
Okay, so I'm going to have to stop you now because I gave you 30 seconds.
Okay.
Thank you. Just for everybody else.
Just to finish.
But tomorrow, no, I'm going to have to stop you right now.
Just finish this. Africa is the opportunity now.
I'm going to have to stop you right now. Okay, now we're going to give it to the panel. And panel, please be real tight with your time. It's only fair to our guests who've been able to sit here and listen to you. Please, I need 1 minute comments. First, starting with Hussein. 1 minute.
Thank you for the opportunity. Like I said earlier on, Africa is a beautiful place, and it's a land of opportunities. And the human resources is immense. Nigeria, Ethiopia, and even the natural resources. apart from the oil, the agricultural sector, and every other mineral resources that are untapped. And I just think we should start to see ourselves differently. Like he said, if the media is not telling our stories correctly, perhaps we can do a lot more telling our stories ourselves. We should invest. How many Africans are even investing in Africa? Before we talk about foreign investment, apart from Dangote, the richest black man, and the woman, Akinlaja, the richest black woman also, who are both Nigerians who have invested across, yes. How many? We all prefer to just take our money overseas, vacation overseas. So if we do a lot within, maybe we can attract foreigners now to come join us and do a lot more with us. Maybe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, to my beloved friend, diplomat Catherine,
Okay.
1 minute.
In 1 minute, I'm just a bit wary that we have made everyone here see the problems more, because I don't want everyone to leave here with just, oh, I didn't know about Africa, but now I know they have tribal issues, then they have this and that. I hope in as much as we have raised issues that are in Africa, we have also, or we would also point you to see that there are also opportunities in Africa, like we have good culture, we have good music. Now, one thing I've heard, one very common thing I've heard, which is not blaming anyone, is that most people don't know about Africa. You're an international student, but a lot of people still think Africa is a country. So I want to challenge each and everybody here that you do something, find out about Africa. You're an international student, you're going to be a diplomat or something, find out about Africa. Don't rely on what somebody else says or what you heard. You find out yourself, and you would see that Africa is indeed on the rise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, to the architect of this great, lovely afternoon interaction. Let's give her a big round of applause. Florence, Tatu, Amimu, who brought this all from a 2-page document. What you can really create from a 2-page document. Again, 1 minute.
Oh, it's 1 minute, yeah? I think we talk about the change, the whole world, and anybody can make a change everywhere. Africa is the place to be. But to just, in a few seconds, to mention, I had an issue here in Germany when I came. I was assaulted by somebody, by a man here, that is in January. And I realized later, when I was fighting, I said, I'm not going to sit down, I'm going to fight. And I took to court, and I took lawyers. And I paid lawyers, very, the really lawyers here, and I took the matter to court, and it was a big thing. But the people, especially there were some African people who saw the assault, they were scared to come out. Even the police asked me, why do you think don't? But I told her, you know what? The truth will prevail. And you know what? After that, you can't believe I'm proud of that, because I made other women, even here in Germany, they came up. 10 women went to the police and made a report. They were assaulted by the same person. And I fought the matter, and I won the case. So I think anybody can make a change anywhere. And I didn't imagine here in Europe, a woman can be assaulted and they keep quiet until I come and raise the issue and try to fight it out. And then is when now they come, even me. So I think everywhere where you are, you can make a change, and Africa is where to be. And I'm proud to be African anyway, and I like to be me as a person, as an African woman. I don't have kind of inferiority or something because I'm black. No, I love myself, I love Africa, and Africa is there to be. We continue consolidating together, and we make the whole world a peaceful place for everybody to live.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everyone who has sat through this marathon afternoon. Really thank you for your patience. Again, we're talking about the future of Africa. And Mark, would you have a moment to come? Okay, so we're talking about the future of Africa, but I'd like to just sum up before I bring the Director General of the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy. If you don't like the Africa today, the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy gave us an opportunity in the title, The Rise of Africa. So if we don't like the Africa today, look around you. And when you look around you, you can begin to start the European-African cooperation opportunities moving ahead tomorrow by one another, because you are the future, you are the leadership. Let's now invite the Director General, Mr. Mark Domfrey, to bring this afternoon to an end. And thank you ever so much for being so kind, an audience.